Hi, for today's reading I pulled the central card here, which was the Five of Swords. So we'll have a look at what the symbology is in this card and what it might mean in a reading. So I thought I'd just start very briefly just by comparing it with two other cards that we've met. One would be the Three of Swords and the Seven of Swords, because all three cards have a similar theme of a central sword being attacked by a series of other swords. So we have the Sorrow card, which is probably the most intense of the three, as we can see by the background there and the splitting of the rose. So that's a deep sorrowful issue that we've been through. The Seven of Swords is more of a thing that's in the background, with it being having the moon in there, so it's more of a subconscious thing, and that is sort of negative self-doubt which is going on, but it's much more subtle than the Three of Swords. And somewhere in between in terms of energy we have the Five of Swords here, which is not as pronounced as the Three of Swords in its depth, and yet it's much more conscious than what happens in the Seven. So we'll have a look at the symbology of the Five of Swords now and go up to a close screen capture on that, and then we'll just finish off looking at it in the context of a reading and perhaps some useful crystals that might be of help in this sort of situation. Okay, we'll go on to the screen capture of the Five of Swords, and the five is related, I think it's the first five we've done, related to the fiery Sephiroth of B.O.T.A, which is ruled by Mars. So lots of aggressive energies in this particular part of the Tree of Life, and further classification of this in the four worlds would be, again, seem to have drawn a lot of swords lately, would be in the world of B.O.T.A, and there is the fifth Sephiroth of that particular level of the Tree of Life. Further classification of this would be looking at the specific decan of the card, and here we have the first decan of Aquarius, which is ruled by Venus, and we have the Rider-Waite version of the card visible on the edge of the wheel. So we'll go to a close-up of the card itself. This image is a bit skewed because I've had to use my own photography on the card, so it wasn't a particularly large version of this card on Google. So from this you'll be able to get a better look at what's going on. So you've essentially got the inverted pentagram there, and you've got the four bent swords, which are in a similar thing to the other cards that we've met in this suit, and just attacking the tip of the lower sword here. Again, you've got these swastika type things in the background here, dark chaotic sort of background, bit of light in the centre there. This central sword is obviously damaged, and the hilts of the four of the upper swords have all got different symbology on. The outline of the pentagram is the rose from the four of the suit, which is truce, and that's been destroyed by the energy of the five. So you've got this five, which is in the middle of the temporary stability of the four and the harmony of the six, so it's not a great place to be wedged between the two. The pentagram really is just a form of the balance of the elements, so you've got, normally you would have spirit at the top and the four elements here, so you'd have spirit coming down and being in balance with matter, but spirit being the dominant sort of energy of the 5. Whereas in this card, obviously, you've got the inverted pentagram there, and the spirit is represented by the crown on the hilt of the on this sword here. So with the crown symbolizing our awareness, increased consciousness, that's at the bottom. It's been dominated by the 4 base elements there. That's why in symbology the crown is always represented to be a form of higher consciousness, and that's obviously been lost on the royal family, who just look at things in a material way, and that's how it's normally viewed in society. But the crown does have a spiritual meaning, and that's basically what it was all about, the attainment of enlightenment through the spiritual path. So we can look at the astrology of the card, which is Venus in Aquarius, which you can barely see the Aquarius sign there. So with Venus in Aquarius, we have Aquarius, we've got as a air sign. Venus actually rules Taurus, which is an earth sign, so you have a cross match there. But the astrology of this card is actually quite potent, because Venus and Aquarius are quite at odds with each other. Venus is a lover, not a fighter, whereas Aquarius is more of a rebel type energy, because it's ruled by Uranus and it's like a fighter for causes. So although Aquarius does seem to have social values, social aims, equality and all that sort of thing, it does it in, or can do it in a far more aggressive way than what Venus would do. And you've also got Aquarius being individualistic and sometimes dispassionate, which clashes with the nature of Venus, which is all about relationships. And another way that you've got a clash here is that you've got Venus in the Sephira of Gebra, which is ruled by Mars. So you've got the nature, all this aggressive energy of Mars and Gebra, which is really out of whack with the harmony and gentleness of Venus. So astrologically and in terms of its Kabbalistic position, we don't have a lot of harmony associated with the card. So the symbology reflects that. Going on to the symbology of the card itself, as I've mentioned, the lower one there. So the 4 top swords, the hilts, represent ways in which we are stuck in our situation, and the pentagram is just a locked energy system which is really going nowhere within us, and we really need to release these energies that are contained in the 4 swords. So here we've got the ram of Aries. Aries is normally a sign of going out into the world and doing and being confident and being a innovator. So the fact that we have this in a negative situation implies that there's a lack of a creative impulse within us, so we're not really moving forward, we're stuck. The red handkerchief here with blood dripping from it is indicative of negative thinking, reopening of old wounds and fears. Pisces here, from the age of Pisces, representing the past and our preoccupation with the past, so we're not letting go of the past and it's sabotaging the present. And here we've got a snake. A snake's all to do with rejuvenation and transformation, so we're not really engaged in that process of transforming ourselves. We're just stuck with these old energies which aren't really serving us very well. So moving on, as I mentioned, we've got the petals here from the shredded rose in the 4. The distorted background is really restricting our true vision of the crown here, and our empowerment, and this is all due to fear. So that history will repeat itself, and it will stop us from enjoying what's going on right now. We've got a blue border here right around the edges here, so that's sort of the clarity that's been pushed aside by all this negative self destruct that's going on in the center of the card. And you've got the white center there, which is spirit showing through, trying to make itself visible so that it can shine once again. That might actually be the light of Tippereth in the next card. So quotes from the Book of Thoth now. Crowley says, weakness rather than excessive strength seems to be the cause of disaster. And he also says that treachery also may be implied, so that is similar to the Rider-Waite version of the card. So divinatory meanings, essential element of the card is fear, which distorts our view of the present, and fear of the unknown. Can relate to a betrayal or a sneak attack by someone you trust, who you don't expect as your enemy, an unfaithful partner, or it may be the result of losing control emotionally in previous relationships and previous hurts, or in the workplace, and these bad experiences stop us from expressing ourselves now. Could be mental turmoil that we're going through, relating to, as I said, emotional issues. Venus, the planet of sensitivity and pleasure. We recognise our sensitivity and the fact that that's been trampled upon and hurt. We've been hurt, so we're now protecting ourselves. So the energy of this card can come in quite a few forms. Personally, for instance, I have bad dreams about the past, and these are just ways in which I guess my spirit is dulled for that day once I have those dreams, because it's like those energies lock in and stop me from enjoying what's going on around me at that time. By the way, I'm working on that. So that is pretty much it in terms of a quick run through of the divinatory meanings. We'll now look at the relationship of this card to a few other cards in the next section, and some helpful crystals, which I personally found helpful as well for this. Okay, see you in the final section. Okay, on to the last part of the video, and we will just look at the Five of Swords in relation to a series of other cards, just to put it in some sort of context. So as we intimated from the previous section, the Five of Swords is all about some damage that has been done to us in the past, which is affecting us now. So the swords all being about our thoughts, our what's happening in our head. That's really where that's really the area that's dominating our spirit, which was represented by the upside down pentagram there. So if we associate it with the Valor card, for instance, so the Valor card is all about putting lots of effort in and fighting a losing battle, then these two cards really sort of back each other up. Maybe something that we've struggled with and not quite achieved, and the two really don't go that well together. They sort of support each other, so you'll be looking at other positives in the spread to bring some positive message out there. Can relate them to the Love card here, and obviously the 5 there relates to some difficult relationship issue of the past, which is affecting us from and stopping us from moving on in the present. So we've all been there, we've all had that, and obviously the different cards in the spread would flesh out that scenario. Workplace again, to do with 3 of discs there. Friendships, and the abundance card is, we can bring in the Rider-Waite definition here because that does seem to indicate some sort of treachery. Even Crowley mentions that in his section of this card in the Book of Thoth. So it might be some friend which has betrayed us, and this can have an influence on our friendships that we form in the future, and how it's affecting us in the present. And I think that's about it. Again, we can go to things like the gain card, which we've seen, which is all about accumulation of money, and the defeat card would be similar, but stronger than the futility card, in it the defeat card's much more damaging. A lot, the energy that the 4 swords carry, which is damaging the sword with the crown on the hilt, those 4 top swords have a much more potent effect than the futility card. So again, that would be quite a negative from trying to achieve what we want financially and materially. So I think that is about it in terms of aspecting the card with other cards. Just to briefly conclude, crystals that are good for dealing with this sort of situation, we've got a big piece of agate here in section, which agate comes in a variety of colours, and it is useful for increasing one's perceptiveness, and it also provides a balance between the physical, emotional and intellectual and spiritual sort of state, so it's good for balance. It's also believed to help to discern truth and accept circumstances and encourage honesty, so that is all about releasing the energy that's locked up in that pentagram, which we saw in the 5 of swords there. Another crystal is this lovely piece of angelite. Angelite is a stone that can bring serenity, inner peace and a sense of calm. So it's used when you need to calm down from feelings of stress and being overwhelmed. And it also helps to unlock fear and anger and encourages forgiveness. So I don't know whether it's easy to tell in that light or not. Another stone which I've not got here is Amazonite, which is said to have a soothing effect on the central nervous system. I talk a little bit more about that in the notes on my website. Okay, I think that's a wrap for this video, so I hope that helped, and I will hopefully see you again. So take care of yourselves. Bye.